Hello, fish fans. Today we're going to be talking about modeling. But before we do, I'm going to ask that you please click the like and subscribe button. And if you would like to get notified of my new videos whenever they drop, click the bell. Check me out on patreon.com/Raina Mermaid. For as little as $2 a month, you can get tons of exclusive content and merch, tons of resources for how to be a mermaid, stuff that's not available anywhere else. You can see my lights in my glasses. That's how you know that they're good. Alright, so this video is going to be about modeling on land in your mermaid tail. If you want to learn some of my tips for modeling underwater, that's going to be another video, so you can check that out. Also, I have to give the disclaimer that this is not just my knowledge. A lot of this is things that I have learned from other mermaids. I'm going to try to remember who told me each tip and give them credit where credit is due, but if I accidentally missed you, I apologize. And some of it's just common knowledge, but may not be common if you're brand new to it, all right? So first of all, regardless of the photo shoot you are doing, safety should be your priority. Having somebody with you always, having somebody there for your safety, and having somebody who can help move you if needed is paramount. So have a merwrangler or grab a friend. You should never go to a photo shoot alone, and you should let somebody know where you are, but especially in a mermaid tail because it's so hard to do it. So for dry land, one of the best tips I ever learned came from Hannah Burgess, Mermaid Sky, who works for Wands and Wishes Mermaids. And her tip is that if you don't put your feet all the way in the monofin, you'll have an easier time doing bendy poses, like my girl Mermaid Victoria. So if you put your feet in it that way, you can actually bend and move your ankles around way easier, and it takes the pressure off your feet and you get better shots. That being said, if you want to be able to do the tail flipping up behind you pictures, you're going to want your feet in that monofin. Instead of trying to roll yourself around to get into poses, this is why it's good to have one or maybe even two assistants. Some photographers will have an assistant with them to do lighting it so you can buddy them up with your merwrangler. If you're having your merwrangler do the photos, have a friend or a family member come with you to help you move around. It's so much easier, less dangerous, you can get into better poses, and you don't risk damaging your tail if you have someone helping you. If you're going to be outside, be sure to use sunscreen. If you're going to be going in the water, make sure that you're wearing reef-safe sunscreen, but when you're modeling, when you're getting into it, you're probably not thinking about the sun and you can end up with a bad sunburn. If you're outside on rocks, you can actually very easily hide face cloths and hand towels underneath you to prevent damage to your tail if you're going to be sitting on rocks. Any photographer can edit them out of a picture. It's really easy to clone tool them out, especially if you're sitting on something like rocks. So many of my most well-received images, I'm actually sitting on a towel because I'm trying not to damage my tail. If you're going to be outside and somewhere in nature, I really suggest that you scope it out first, and you scope it out with a pair of sneakers on. Don't just show up dressed to the nines, barefoot, or already in a tail and expect to be able to get pictures. You really want to know the surface that you're dealing with. You want to check for things like glass and any kind of pollution that might accidentally hurt you. You want to be aware of any animals that might be in the area. One of my girls is allergic to bee stings, so we have to, if we're doing a photo shoot, we make sure she's got her EpiPen, and we just want to kind of make sure that, you know, we're not sitting next to a hornet's nest or beehive. You know, it sounds really obvious, but people don't think to do this stuff, so it's important to do it. If you're out in public somewhere, you may require a permit to take photos. There's usually listings online depending on your province or state. If you're doing it just for fun, you may not, but if it kind of depends. I've heard that many of the springs in Florida are now requesting permits. So it's just something you need to be aware of because you could get slapped with a fine. Same thing with drones. If the person who's doing drone photography or videography of you needs to be prepared, they may need a permit, or they may be only allowed to use a drone in certain areas. That's the way it is where I live in Halifax. That's the whole reason we didn't buy a drone, is because they're so restricted here. It's just actually cheaper for us to hire somebody to do it than for us to go through all the hoops to do it ourselves. One trick for modeling in the sun or from a light source when you're outside is that you want to light the short side of your face. You wouldn't turn it and light it this way. This is actually the short side of my face as I'm turning this way to you. And you see that this is kind of washing out my face, and you can see my under eyes and all these bones. Whereas if we change the light source to be coming from a spot where it's lighting the short side, you get a much better effect. And there's tutorials for this on YouTube, and you can watch models who really just do a fantastic job of showing you how to find the light when you're outside. And one thing that's tricky when you're outside is that the sun can bounce off of sand or bounce off of rocks or bounce off the water and totally blind you. So sometimes when I'm photographing my girls, I will get them to close their eyes until they're ready to open them for a shot, and then I have a designated place for them to look, and they're able to hold their eyes open for that few seconds despite the crazy sun, and then close them again so that their eyes aren't pouring and watering. One time my poor little sister Emma, and this is why I brought the sunglasses, we were doing a gig and it was so sunny and the sun was shining right in our faces that she just had tears streaming down her face, and eventually our client came over and gave her a pair of sunglasses, and she did the whole gig in sunglasses, which is not ideal, but we made it work so that she didn't look like she was crying through the whole gig. It does happen. Sun blindness happens. In Canada, we get snow blindness. Not fun. If you have several chins, as I do, there's a little trick. A lot of times when people go to pose, they'll slump a bit. You don't want to slump unless you're going for a certain look. You want to roll those shoulders back, and my trick to not getting this is literally to stick my neck out like an ostrich, but you do it so that you're positioned in a perspective that it doesn't look like you're going like this. So when I do family photos and everything, and my whole family, it's a hereditary thing. The tiniest of us, who weigh like 100 pounds, and I weighed 100 pounds when I was younger for the longest time, we still have double chins, even when we're really skinny. These jowls, these double chins, that's not going away unless I have plastic surgery, which I have no intention of doing. So I've had to learn to live with my double chins. I have learned to contour them, and I have learned to angle myself and stick my face out a little bit more. And also, a photographer is going to know to look for your angles, but you can help them, you know, by learning to do this, practicing in the mirror. It really helps. You've got so much to think about when you're in a mermaid tail, and I just find that even my own team, for years, you're paying so much attention to where your tail is and your arms and stuff, and everybody just immediately goes like this. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You want to extend. You want to extend. Give that nice long look. Because not only is it the double chin thing, I mean, a double chin works if you're doing like a fun, laughy photo. And I'm not, you know, nothing against double chins. Like I said, I love mine. I've got many of them, several. But it actually creates more dynamic in the picture, and you can see that just in how I'm moving here, right? If you're posing in a studio, and studios use backdrops that are rolls of paper typically, it can actually be really hard to pose on a roll of paper in a mermaid tail. So one of the things that Alter Ego Photography did when they photographed me is they actually put a piece of thick plastic down, and I went on top of that. Not only did it make it easier for me to pose, it created this cool reflection thing that I really liked, and it made for a very seamless backdrop. It was really great. Don't stress out about covering up imperfections or pimples or whatever. If you've got a makeup artist doing stuff for you, that's awesome. Or if you're really talented with makeup, that's great. I take hormone medication, and because of that, I will often get breakouts. It takes 2 seconds in post to edit out something that would take me an hour to get out with makeup, and I'd still have a little bump. Literally, there are apps on your phone that will take the pimples off your face. So do not stress yourself out about pimples. If you don't want them in your picture, they are so easy to take out after the fact. Focus on making yourself feel confident, and if you're going to do makeup and that's the thing that you want to do, it's all wonderful and good, but you really don't need to focus all your energy on trying to cover that one zip. I think I've shown behind the scenes pictures before on my Instagram of the steps of covering a zip, and then what it looks like afterwards, and then what it looks like when I edit it. Editing it takes 2 seconds, so seriously, don't worry that much about them. Similarly, don't worry so much about tail bunching, because if you don't like wrinkles and tail bunches in your photos, you can just ask your photographer to edit them out. In the early days of the industry, people did not want to see wrinkles in photos. Oh my gosh, that just takes away from the realism. You're not a real mermaid. But realistically, if you're trying to get a shot and you're trying to do a certain pose, you're gonna be scrunching that tail up and you're gonna end up with wrinkles. A perfectly skin-tight mermaid tail is still gonna get wrinkles. Like, you watch like the H2O behind the scenes, they still get wrinkles when they do certain things, and they literally have people who just come along and smooth it out physically, or it gets smoothed out in pictures, and it's so easy. Again, just like taking out the zits, it is so easy to smooth it out. So if you can fix it in your post, that's fine. But what I'm saying is don't put yourself at risk and hurt yourself or hurt your tail because you're trying to get that little ankle bump out when it can be taken out in post in like 2 seconds. It's totally fine. One of the big ones that we all make a mistake, anybody with long hair, we end up getting our hair ties on our wrists and they end up in pictures and video. So try when you take that hair down, give that hair tie to somebody. And I have fallen victim to this. Even the most pro mermaids on the planet, you'll catch a picture of them with a hair tie on their wrist. It is such a habit for those of us with long hair. You just don't think about it unless you make yourself think about it. And last but not least, if you are doing your photo shoot on the beach or outside, please be aware that sand is going to get everywhere and it's going to be uncomfortable. It will get inside your tail. It will get all over your tail. One trick that we do is once the person is in the pose, we actually pour a bucket of water over the tail so that the sand is not sticking all over to it, because it can really just make your tail look like it's been covered in flour or something if it gets covered with sand. But it's going to get everywhere, so you should definitely make sure that you have time when you're finished your shoot to clean your tail before you bring it back into your home. You don't want to be clogging up your plumbing with all of the sand, right? Like, you gotta be careful with that stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, it's just for dry land or that beachy part of the water, so it's not underwater modeling. We're gonna do a different video with tips on underwater modeling. Thank you to everybody who helped create my knowledge base of this and for teaching me. I did model professionally when I was 19, 20 and weighed like 100 pounds and was very skinny. It's really funny actually because I was able to do that despite the old crooked teeth I used to have. It just wasn't a problem. I did tons of modeling. I was able to learn from a lot of really amazing photographers and models growing up, and I've been able to translate that into mermaiding. But here's the thing, even if you're an experienced model, modeling in a mermaid tail is different and it can become dangerous and you can hurt yourself or your tail. I rolled my ankle and sprained it this summer trying to pose in my tail, and then swimming so much really overused it, so you've got to be careful. It's totally a thing that can happen, right? But like I said, if you want to know about the underwater stuff, that's coming in another video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Give me a click on the little bell there. Leave a comment. What other kind of stuff do you want to see? Check me out on patreon.com/RainaMermaid for exclusive content, behind the scenes, early access, workshops you can take. You can get my books cheaper. You can get resources that I have made, program planning materials, all kinds of stuff. And we have a really awesome community of merfolk there. So I'd love to have you. Best fishes. Thanks for checking out my video. Check me out on patreon.com/RainaMermaid. You will get early videos. You will get... Check me out on Raina